Well, Riot Games steps in it again when there is woman involved, and League of Legends has a PR mess involving an all woman team and handing down bans for disrespecting the woman. Now, this is a convoluted story, but I will start with the 30,000-foot view and then fill it in. Essentially, the League of Legends competitive team Vaevictis fielded a team of all females. Then Riot Games then censured, warned two other teams competing against them for banning support. Now, there is a meme about female players only playing support in games, and so I guess Riot read their minds and thought, hey, well, this is a meme. Now, if you're like me and you don't follow League of Legends competitively, I had to do a bit of digging, and thank you, Mel, for filling me in a little bit about the way the scene works. So if I get anything wrong about this, I apologize, but I think I have a pretty good understanding now, and certainly I understand the way controversy works. So essentially, Vaevictis was looking to sell the team or rebrand. They ended up terminating their five male players, and they couldn't fill the seats in time, so they ended up just saying, screw it, we'll grab 5 female players from around the area, and it'll be a good marketing ploy. The idea that, Riot would get involved at this point would make sense because they're interested in always respecting the woman. Riot Games has given official warning to LCL's team for using 5 support bans. Now, to give you some backstory, the banning stuff is part of the game. So when you get into the game, each team can ban a certain player on the other team. It's part of how the chess match works in competition. So they ended up banning 5 different support players. Now, 3 of them, from what I understand, were meta anyway, meaning they were decent bans to have. And the other 2, it's hard to say, but these women did, in fact, from what I understand, play support players. So Riot reacts like, oh, you're playing woman and you ban 5 support players. You must be memeing on them. Warning, official warning. Riot Games released an official warning regarding Rox's behavior during the match. In a game against Vaevictis, Team Rox banned 5 support champions during the pick ban process. Although this is not technically against the rules, both Riot Games and broader League of Legends community took this as a sign of disrespect towards the Vaevictis esports team. From what I'm understanding, the Vaevictis team did not complain about this. They didn't care. Starting from this year, Vaevictis Esports has been participating in the LCL with only female players in their starting lineup. Vaevictis has also been the center of attention for their 2-52 kill point loss against Vega Squadron. This split, Vega Squadron was warned alongside Rox by Riot for intentionally stretching out the match. Basically, what I understand about this all-female team is, as a reality, they are not pro-level players. They are marketing players. Now, this is not... The sad thing about this is this really hurts, like, actual female competitive esports players. That's the real sad part of this, is, like, women that want to get into competitive esports, particularly League of Legends in this case, will now be viewed as some sort of marketing ploy because of what Team Vaevictis did. These females, from what I understand, were not even high enough ranked to be considered pros. In League, the ones that are usually playing the Challenger rank, these females are Diamond, which is considerably in a lower tier. Each player has a designated role to play, namely top jungle, mid bot, and support. Vaevictis picked females who were mainly support players in the league. So it's only logical for opponents to ban champions they are comfortable with. This is coming from my esports connection. I think it's not the females' fault, but they are getting backlash. But the team who wielded non-pros in a pro league, which destroys the integrity of the competition. However, Riot decided that it was disrespectful to ban 5 support champions. Before the match, of course, there was a pick ban phase, 5 each for each team. So Vaevictis decided to ban 5 support champions. Yes. So this, I asked basically, is this kind of the meme? Is that why? Yes, but it happens all the time. Against Fnatic, They have a good bot laner called Reckless. The opponents banned 5 bot champions. I remember that. I saw Thorin talked about this. So banning 5 of a particular player is not exactly unheard of. A particular character, I mean. Then if we go to look at some more of the history around this, as somebody who coaches in the LCL and has spent several splits there, Vaevictis effed up this split. They were supposed to retain some of their old players and add one or two new guys. One day, a couple weeks ago, they randomly fired all their contract players who got hard effed since they ended up having nowhere to go afterwards due to the late release, and assumed they would be able to sell their slot, meaning they wanted to sell their slot in the championship. They failed to sell it, so they just said, F it, fill it with all-female roster with players based in Moscow since the studio is located there. I'm not sure they will supply a boot camp, though I may be wrong with this. Also, at the moment, LCL Open Cup, where Vaevictis has filled the roster with 5 amateur guys. From a PR point of view, the all-female thing is good in terms of viewers. For the integrity of League itself, they are making a mockery of it. And that's kind of the point, right? You look at a team that has a spot, wants to sell it, and instead they're making a mockery of it. It seems like the person you'd want to punish here is the team by removing them, not allowing them to sell their spot, because they are in fact making a mockery of it. Here we have Rox and Vega Squadron receive warnings for in-game misconduct against all-female team. And that's really, there's enough blame to go around here. 1, Riot overreacting because all-female team. 2, Vaevictis should never have fielded a non-competitive team in the first place. If they wanted to sell their team or bow out. And 3, the other teams, stretching out a match, that's not classy. I would say that's definitely not sportsman-like conduct. So I think there's enough blame to go around here. I mean, if you're in a competitive match and you're just beating somebody so bad, it's like the mercy rule needs to be applied. That's not classy. That's not what I would expect in sportsmanship. So if you're looking for me to side with the team that stretched out the victory, I'm not going to. I think the integrity of the competition, sportsmanship is very important. If you're looking at me to blame the 5 women who were on Vaevictis, I'm not going to. They just took the spots. They got paid. It's not their fault. Riot Games is the one who is at fault here for both overreacting and as well as Vaevictis, the team ownership, fielding a team of amateurs in a pro league is absurd. In Rox's victory against Vaevictis on February 16th, the team banned 5 support champions. While Riot admitted that is not against the rules, Riot took Rox's banning as signs of disrespect. In their match against Vaevictis on February 17th, Vega Squadron intentionally stretched out their match, which Riot considered to be unsportsmanlike behavior, which breaks the Summoner's Code competitive integrity rule. And you know what? I agree with this. You're going to beat someone, beat somebody. Don't be a D about it. I mean, that's just where I stand. Yeah, it's funny, but you save running up the score for non-competitive match. You're trying to set an example there. Although they received warnings for their offenses, Riot explained that repeated infractions would allow in more serious punishments. And by the way, running up the score against any team, I think, is unsportsmanlike conduct. Although they received following the release of the competitive ruling, the LCL community came to the defense of Rox. In the LCL Open Cup earlier today, another Russian team, Pro Gaming, used all 10 bans on support champions. It's currently unknown if Riot plans to issue competitive rulings against Der Zentral, Magier, and Elements Pro Gaming, as it possibly could be considered a sign of disrespect towards Vaevictis. The LCL is set to resume play on February 23rd with Elements Pro Gaming facing off against Vaevictis in Week 2's opening match. I mean, what it sounds like is basically if you were to take a high school football team and you put them up against an NFL football team, you don't blame either one of them, but you know what's going to happen. Running up the score, I think, is a worthwhile infraction, to be honest. The banning 5 supports as a sign of disrespect is absurd. It's not banned. It's not, it's a legitimate tactic. In fact, what I understand about the meta, 3 of the 5 bans were reasonable. Basically you have a bunch of characters to choose from, and then teams as as a chess match will ban certain players, you know, certain characters from the other team. That's a fun, interesting part of it. But what they did was not against the rules. It is not their fault that the Vaevictis was all female. From what I've seen, there were not a lot of public, you know, tweets about, hey, we got him, Keck. And so Riot looks pathetic here. A company that has been publicly exposed, having serious problems with how they treat women inside their own walls. So I would suggest Riot looks to handle their own backyard before they worry about what other players are doing by reading their minds and assuming the worst of them. But nonetheless, Woman in esports continues to be a hilarious meme fest. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.